This video was made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. We couldn't do this without you.
Don't forget that you can support the channel for free and receive 10% off orders over $10 of Flipside Gaming by using the promo code Affinity at the checkout. Or if TCG Player or Magic Madhouse are more your thing, then be sure to place your order through our affiliate links in the description. Once again, at no extra cost to yourselves.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another EDH gameplay video brought to you by Affinity for Commander. My name's Martin.
And my name is Alex.
Today we are joined by Chase, also known as Mana Curves, who is a writer for TCG player and fantastic MTG streamer. We are also joined by Alex Kessler, CEO of Kesco Toys and host of the MMcast podcast. As always, links to both of our guest social media profiles will be in the video description, so feel free to check them out. But without further ado, let's take a look at those opening hands.
I'm playing my Rhys the Redeemed Elf Tribal deck, and keep a starting hand of Elvish Mystic, Gaia's Blessing, Farhaven Elf, Oracle of Muldiah, Temple Garden, Wooded Bastion, and a Plains.
I'm playing my Lord Windgrace Landfall deck, and keep an opening hand consisting of Groundskeeper, Socorro Tribe Elder, Savage Twister, Azusa Lost But Seeking, Realms Uncharted, Baron Moor, and Slippery Cast.
Kes is playing his Marath Will of the Wild Life Gain Burn deck, and keeps an opening hand which is made up of Electro Dominance, Darksteel Plate, Pyrohemia, Hall of Heliod's Generosity, Sunbaked Canyon, Needle Spires, and Windswept Heath.
And finally, Chase is playing her Phage the Untouchable one-hit KO deck, and keeps an opening hand containing Trailblazer's Boots, Exsanguinate, Endless Atlas, Beseech the Queen, Magus of the Coffers, and 2 Swamps.
I win the die roll and start the game off by playing Temple Garden. I pay 2 life to have the land enter untapped and cast Elvish Mystic before passing to Chase.
Chase plays a swamp and passes the turn.
Kes plays Needle Spires and ends his turn.
I play Slippery Cast and pass to Alex.
I play Wooded Bastion and cast Farhaven Elf. I search my library for a forest, put it onto the battlefield, and pass the turn.
Chase plays another swamp and casts Endless Atlas. Out of mana, she ends her turn.
Kes plays Windswept Heath, immediately paying a life and sacrificing it. He searches his library for Temple Garden, paying a further 2 life to have it enter untap, and casts Life from the Loam. He returns the fetch land to his hand, and with nothing more to do, Kes passes to Martin.
I play Baron Moor and cast Groundskeeper. I then pass the turn.
I play a forest and cast my commander, Rhys the Redeemed. Moving to combat, I attack Kes with my Mystic, dealing him 1 damage, and end my turn.
Chase plays a swamp, casts Phyrexian Arena, and passes to Kes.
Kes replays Windswept Heath, pays a life, and sacrifices the land to put a forest into play from his library. He then casts Darksteel Plate and ends his turn.
I miss my land drop, play Socorro Tribe Elder, and pass the turn.
I play a Plains and cast Oracle of Muldiah. I reveal the top card of my library to be a forest, play it, and reveal the next card to be Yeva, Nature's Herald. Moving to combat, I attack Chase with Farhaven Elf, dealing her 1 damage, and end my turn.
In her upkeep, Chase loses a life and draws a card with Phyrexian Arena. She then draws for turn and activates her Endless Atlas, drawing another card. Unfortunately, Chase failed to draw a land and moves to her discard phase. She puts Platinum Angel into her graveyard and passes to Kes.
Kes plays Battlefield Forge, and then casts his commander, Marath Will of the Wild. The Elemental Beast enters with 3+1/+1 counters on it, and Kes passes the turn.
I move straight to combat, attacking Chase with Stee, dealing her 1 damage. I then move to my post-combat main phase where I sacrifice the Elder to put a mountain into play tapped from my library, and cast Collective Voyage. I put 1 mana into the spell, Alex contributes nothing, Chase adds 1 mana, and Kes also adds a single mana to the collection. Each of us then search our libraries for 3 basic lands, putting them into play tapped, and I end my turn. Alex reveals the top card of his library to be Voice of Many, and then responds by activating his commander's ability, creating a 1/1 Elf Warrior token. With no further interruptions, Alex proceeds to his turn.
I draw, revealing my next card to be Sundering Growth, and play a Forest. Next I cast the Voice of Many that I just drew, drawing 3 cards from his ETB, and reveal the top card of my library to be Fierce Empath. I then play another Forest, move to combat, and attack Martin with my Oracle. He takes 2 damage, and I pass to Chase.
Chase draws a card and loses a life to her arena, and then casts Beseech the Queen. She searches her library for an extremely pretty and shiny full orc Cabal Coffers, plays the land, and taps it to add 6 black mana to her mana pool. Chase then uses 5 of this mana to cast Magus of the Coffers, and then casts Lightning Greaves, attaching them to her Magus. Luckily for us, Chase lacks the mana to activate the wizard's ability and simply passes the turn.
Kes plays Sunbait Canyon and equips his Darksteel plate to Marath. Next he plays Pyrohemia, causing me to gasp loudly, and then ends his turn.
I begin my turn by casting Savage Twister, where X is 4. Alex responds to this by casting Sundering Growth, destroying Chase's Lightning Greaves, and every creature other than the indestructible Marath are dealt lethal damage. Out of mana, I pass to Alex.
I start my turn by realising that I should have destroyed Pyrohemia with my Sundering Growth, causing me to feel a deep sense of dread and regret. Moving swiftly on, I cast Broken Bond, destroying the pesky enchantment, but unfortunately don't have a land in my hand to put into play. Next, I recast Rhys and cast Fierce Empath. I search my library for Protean Hulk, putting the big boy into my hand, and then pass the turn.
Chase draws with her arena, loses a life, and casts Neverborn Altar. Next she casts Trailblazer's Boots, followed by Key to the City, and activates her Altar's ability. Chase puts a soul counter on the artifact, loses 3 life, and puts her commander into her hand from the command zone. She then activates her Atlas, drawing a card, but once again fails to draw a land this turn. I would feel sorry for her, but she is playing Phage, so... With nothing more to do, Chase ends her turn.
Kes plays Hall of Heliod's Generosity and casts Sunforger. He equips the hammer to his commander and passes to Martin.
I float a red mana and cast Crop Rotation, sacrificing my tapped mountain to the spell. I search my library for Temple of the False God, put the land into play, and cast Avenger of Zendikar. Chase responds to this by cycling Dirge of Dread, and the elemental then resolves. I create 6 0/1 plant tokens and pass the turn.
In my turn, I cast Gaia's Blessing, shuffling all of the creatures in my graveyard back into my library. I draw a card from the Blessing, cast Dwynen's Elite, and create a 1/1 Elf Warrior with the Elite's ETB. Not yet finished, I cast Heritage Druid, tap 3 of my elves to produce 3 green mana, and cast Shamanic Revelation. I draw 5 cards, play a Plains, and cast Elvish Archdruid. Happy with the number of elves I just put onto the battlefield, I end my turn.
Chase loses a life to Phyrexian Arena, draws a card, and plays Command Beacon. Next she casts her commander, Phage the Untouchable, who has been altered to resemble Darth Nihilus. Such an amazing piece of work. Chase then passes to Kes, who responds by activating his Sunforger's ability. He unequips the hammer, searches his library for Chain Reaction, and casts a spell without paying its mana cost. Each creature other than Marath is destroyed, and Chase sacrifices her command beacon to return Phage to her hand. Pleased with his actions, Kes moves to his turn.
Kes plays Jungle Shrine, and Chase activates her Endless Atlas, drawing a card. Kes then re-equips Sunforger to his Elemental Beast, and passes the turn.
I begin my turn by casting Courser of Krufix, revealing a swamp as being on top of my library. Next I cast Azusa Lost But Seeking, play the swamp and gain a life. I reveal the top card of my library to be the Gitrog monster, play a forest and gain another life. Still not finished, I cast Realms Uncharted, searching my library for Dakmor Salvage, Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, Field of the Dead and Cabal Coffers. Chase puts Dakmor Salvage and Urborg into my hand, the other 2 lands into my graveyard, and I reveal the top card of my library to be Sol Ring. With nothing more to do, I end my turn.
I cast Protean Hulk, and am completely unwilling to pay 5 mana for my commander, so I pass to Chase.
Chase draws a card, loses a life, and plays a swamp. Next she casts Bolas' Citadel, taking a peek at the top card of her library, and then casts Increasing Ambition. Chase searches her library for a card, puts it into her hand, and looks at the new top card of her library. She then moves to her end step, and Kess responds by once again activating his Forge's ability. This time he casts Eladamri's Call, searching his library for Boros Reckoner and putting it into his hand. Chase then discards down to 7 and passes the turn.
Kess casts the Reckoner that he just tutored for and equips his Dark Steel Plate to the Minotaur. Next he casts Gideon Black Blade and uses +1 ability to give Boros Reckoner lifelink until the end of turn. Kess removes a +1/+1 counter from his commander to deal 1 damage to the Reckoner, and Kess uses the Minotaur's ability to deal 1 damage to itself over and over again. The Reckoner doesn't die given that it has Indestructible, and gains Kess infinite life given that it has lifelink. Now that is a spicy combo. Happy with his play, Kess casts Soul Ring and ends his turn.
I draw, revealing a mountain on top of my library, and cast my commander, Lord Windgrace. Next I play the mountain, gaining a life and revealing a forest. I play the forest, gaining another life and revealing Polluted Mire, which I also play. I gain yet another life, reveal the next card of my library to be Badoka Gardener, and activate my commander's +2 ability. I discard a land, draw 2 cards, and reveal a Terramorphic Expanse on top of my library. Not yet finished, I cast Soul Ring, followed by Uvenwald Hydra. I search my library for Blighted Woodland with the Hydra ZTB, put it into play tapped, and gain a life from my Courser. Content with the amount of ramping I've done this turn, I pass to Alex, who responds by casting Generous Gift. He targets his own Protean Hulk with the kill spell, giving himself a 3/3 elephant token and triggering the Hulk's ability. Alex puts Wirewood Symbiote, Eternal Witness, Nettle Sentinel and Lonawar Elves into play this way, and returns Heritage Druid to his hand with the Witness's ability. With nothing more to do, Alex proceeds to his turn.
I start my turn by casting Heritage Druid, followed by Team of Sabertooth. Sensing an infinite mana combo on the horizon, Kess responds by removing a +1/+1 counter from Marath, dealing 1 damage to my symbiote. I respond by returning Heritage Druid to my hand with the Wirewood Symbiote's ability, and the insect is then destroyed. One day I'll get to make infinite mana with that combo, but alas, today's not that day. The Sabertooth then resolves and I move to combat. Kess once again responds, this time removing his commander's final +1/+1 counter to deal lethal damage to my Eternal Witness. I decide not to attack in my combat step, moving swiftly on to my second main phase, where I recast Heritage Druid. Plan foiled, I pass the turn.
Chase loses a life, draws a card and plays Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Next she casts Nikana Revenant, followed by Dalthri Embrace. Chase then looks at the top card of her library and pays 5 life to Bolas' Citadel to cast the Liliana Vest that she just saw. Not yet finished, Chase recasts her commander and pays another 5 life to cast the Grey Merchant of Asphodel on top of her library. Alex, Kess and I each lose 17 life, and Chase gains a whopping 51 life from the Merchant CTB. Wow. Chase then activates Liliana's -3 ability, searching her library for a card and putting it on top of her library. She then pays 4 life to cast the Crypt Gas that she just tutored for, giving her access to a silly amount of mana, and casts Lich's Mastery. Still not finished, Chase pays 3 life and casts Plaguecrafter from the top of her library. She sacrifices the crafter to its own effect, Alex sacrifices Elephant, I sacrifice my Courser, and Kess sacrifices Gideon. Finally out of cards to cast, Chase ends her turn.
Kess untaps and activates his Hall of Heliod's Generosity to put the Pyrohemia in his graveyard on top of his library. He then draws the enchantment, casts it, and passes to Martin.
I begin my turn by activating Windgrace's +2 ability, discarding a forest to draw 2 cards. Next I play Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, followed by Evolving Wilds, and sacrifice my Blighted Woodland to put a forest and a swamp into play tapped. I then pass the turn and Kess responds by activating Pyrohemia 4 times. Each creature other than my Hydra and Boros Reckoner are destroyed, everyone takes 4 damage, and Chase exiles 4 cards from her graveyard due to her Lich's Mastery. Kess then has his Reckoner deal 4 damage to Chase, forcing her to exile another 4 cards, and we mistakenly believe that Pyrohemia deals damage to our Planeswalkers as well as ourselves. Don't worry though, we realise our mistake during Alex's next turn and bring Liliana back from the dead to correct this misplay. With no further interruptions, Alex proceeds to his turn.
I start my turn by casting Gaia's Blessing, returning a selection of cards from my graveyard to my library and drawing a card. Next I cast Farhaven Elf, putting a Plains into play tapped with their ETB, and pass the turn.
Chase uses Liliana's -2 ability to search her library for Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, puts it on top of her deck and plays it with Bolas's Citadel. Next she adds 10 mana to her mana pool with Nykthos, followed by a further 10 with Cabal Coffers. Man, that's a lot of mana. Chase then taps the rest of her lands and casts Exsanguinate, where X is 22. Alex is knocked out of the game, I go down to 1 life, and Chase gains 66 life, putting her on a very healthy 124 life. Lich's Mastery then forces her to draw a card for each life that she gained, causing Chase to put her entire library into her hand. Out of mana, Chase puts all but 7 cards in her hand into her graveyard and passes to Kess.
Kess plays a Plains and equips Sunforger to his Minotaur. He then moves to combat, attacking Liliana with his Reckoner and reduces her loyalty to 0. Kess then passes the turn.
I use Lord Windgrace's +2 ability, discarding a forest and drawing 2 cards. I then cycle Tranquil Thicket, drawing another card and play a forest. Next I cast Skyshroud Claim, putting 2 forests into play, and cast Grow from the Ashes, paying the kicker cost. I search my library for 2 swamps, put them onto the battlefield, and cast Farseek. I put a mountain into play tapped, cast Farhaven Elf, and put a forest onto the battlefield with their ETB. Finally out of ramp spells, I move to combat and attack Chase with my 22/22 Hydra. Chase takes the damage, exiling 22 cards from her graveyard, and I end my turn.
Chase is unable to draw but doesn't lose the game thanks to her Lich's Mastery. She then casts Shadow Alley Denizen, followed by Sir Conrad the Grim. Not yet finished, Chase casts Dread Presence, and Kess responds by activating his Sunforger's ability. He searches library for Enlightened Tutor, casts it for free, and puts Fiery Emancipation on top of his library with the tutor. Next he casts Electro Dominance, where X is 5, choosing to direct 5 damage to Sir Conrad. Kess flashes in Backdraft Hellkite with the spell's ability, Sir Conrad is destroyed, and Kess responds to this ability triggering by activating Pyrohemia twice. Martin's life is reduced to 0, Chase takes 2 from the enchantment, and Kess uses Boros Reckoner's ability to deal both Chase and her Dirge Presence 1 more damage, killing the Nightmare. Chase then exiles 3 cards from her graveyard, and Sir Conrad's ability finally resolves, dealing 1 damage to Kess. Not to be deterred, Chase casts Reaper from the Abyss, and moves to her end step. She destroys Kess's Hellkite with her Reaper's Morbid ability, and passes to Kess.
Kess draws and casts the Fiery Emancipation on top of his library and activates Pyrohemia. This deals 3 damage to Boros Reckoner, and Kess targets the Reckoner with its own ability, causing it to take 9 damage thanks to the Emancipation's effects. Kess repeats this over and over until Boros Reckoner is dealing thousands of damage to itself, and then targets Chase with the final bout of damage. Chase takes a silly amount of damage, forcing her to exile all of the cards in her graveyard and on the battlefield, removing Lich's Mastery from the game and causing her to lose. Now that was a fancy victory. Well, that's it for another game. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'd like to once again thank our guests for joining us for this game. We had a great time playing with them. Don't forget that you can support the channel in 4 quick and easy ways: liking this video, subscribing, hitting that bell icon, and leaving us a comment. I read every one. And if you really want to support the channel, then consider checking out our Patreon page for exclusive rewards and goodies. That's all for now though, we'll see you next time.